The story has just gotten more complicated for Lil Durk. New court documents have come to light that link his name to yet another murder from years ago. The timing couldn't be worse because Durk is already dealing with serious charges. The feds are looking into murders that most people have forgotten for a long time, and now they're connecting them to Durk. One name making waves is Stefan Mack, who was shot down in 2022. With this new connection, things are beginning to look like a pattern, but that's not all. The baby mama of OTF Jam, Octavia Redmond, who passed away tragically earlier. Are these instances all related in 2024, and how extensive is Durk's involvement? Might this be the beginning of something that might destroy all the rapper has worked so hard to build? Stay locked in, because this tale is only getting worse. A more sinister new murder case, the unanticipated connection between rapper Lil Durk and the sad murder of Stefan Mack in January 2022, has taken an unexpected turn. Authorities in Chicago suspect that Mack's shooting death outside the Young Peace Center of Rossland wasn't an isolated incident, but rather two gunmen attacked Mack as he left the facility, and they carried out a deliberate hit. According to recent claims, Durk may have been involved in the crime. Although Durk hasn't been officially charged with Mack's murder, federal documents claim that he offered money to anyone willing to kill Mack's gang members. Despite the seriousness of these accusations, the rapper's already difficult legal battle has been made even more difficult. Additionally, Durk is involved in another significant case in Los Angeles where Durk's legal team recently attempted to secure his release on a $3.3 million bond, but the judge shut it down, citing the seriousness of the charges. Durk's name keeps coming up in connection with Mack's murder, and now the feds are saying that his own social media post might be part of the story. What makes this case even more explosive is the way federal investigators are connecting Durk to the aftermath of Mack's death. Prosecutors have charged him with funding a murder-for-hire plot that targets rapper Quando Rondo. To obscure lyrics and Instagram postings as proof shortly after the shoot, Lil Durk posted an Instagram story that caused some people to take notice. It featured a picture of his crew, but only the family. Investigators have concluded that the post's timing and tone suggested it was a barely disguised celebration of Mack's murder, and it went further than that. Durk released the song, only a month later, that is currently being investigated by the Fed for perhaps mentioning Mack's death. They claim that the lyrics hint at what happened, despite Durk's never having acknowledged any role. For those who are unfamiliar, the Gangster Disciples are one of Chicago's most notorious street and prison gangs with a long history of violent rivalries, especially with the Black Disciples. According to court documents, investigators use more than just social media and music to build their case. One text message discovered on the phone of a suspect connected to Mack's murder allegedly asked, "Did Durk give you that money?" suggesting a payment for the hit. According to reports, Mack belonged to a Gangster Disciples group called Smashville. The use of Lil Durk's music and social media as part of the federal case demonstrates how fame doesn't always shield you from the past. Why would Durk risk anything to plan such a daring, high-profile move? Rumor has it that it's related to the tragic loss of his brother, a moment that reportedly set him off on a relentless quest for vengeance. As of right now, Lil Durk is still in custody, with federal charges piling up and new details emerging in court regarding whether the evidence against him is reliable. Durk's brother, Stefan Mack Jr., also known as DT Thing, was tragically murdered on June 6, 2021, outside of Club O nightclub in Harvey, Illinois. The shooting occurred late on a Saturday night, shortly after 12:20 a.m., and shocked the music industry and the streets of Chicago. According to reports, there had been tension in the air before an altercation broke out outside the club after a Harvey police officer on patrol noticed the person carrying a pistol. Officer Muhammad was also hurt during the firing, though it's unknown who shot him, and Dean was wounded in the head, adding to the mayhem. However, the bloodshed didn't end there. The loss hit Durk hard, and the streets soon began to hum with rumors about retaliation and what it would mean for the already intense gang feuds in Chicago. Durk DT was a pillar of his life and career, a key figure in his only family, and 2 hours later, another shooting occurred on West 155th Street, leaving another dead in what police believe could have been a retaliatory hit. Movement and the streets never forget him. When D-Thing was killed, rumors started to circulate about how the rapper would react. This was the kind of tragedy that demanded retribution in the world Durk came from. Fast forward to January 7, 2022, when Mack was ambushed and shot dead. According to federal documents, the murder was not random. Rather, it was a calculated move that was a direct retaliation for the killing of D-Thing. The feds claimed that Durk funded Mack's assassination, planning it as part of a revenge plot against the gangster disciples, who were thought to be held accountable for D-Thing's demise. The conflict between Durk's OTF team and gangster disciples factions is deeply ingrained in the gang conflicts that have dominated Chicago streets for many years. According to federal investigators, Durk offered money to secure street justice for his brother. The rapper then went on a warpath, seeking retribution for his brother's murder. The feds believe this led to a higher-level plot to murder Quizzo Rondo, a rival connected to the 2020 assassination of Durk's close associate King Von. Durk's camp and predicament, no matter how hard Durk tries to stay ahead of the charges, they keep piling up one after another. The real question is whether he can outrun them or if the streets are finally overrun with his gang violence. Word on the street is that someone from Durk's own camp may have flipped, turning everything upside down. Rondo's circle only grew by the time Q's cousin, Sava Robinson, was killed in 2022. The feds claim that this was part of a larger revenge plot Durk allegedly orchestrated in response to losing both King Val and Dang. According to court documents, Jam, a trusted member of Lil Durk's only family crew, has allegedly been working with federal agents for years. This wasn't a small betrayal, rather, it was a calculated move. Reports suggest that an OTF member may have been wearing a wire and giving information directly to the feds. Jam, who was released in 2020 after spending 12 years for attempted murder, is now being held accountable for supplying crucial evidence that has Durk battling for his release. Rumor has it that Jam didn't merely provide some incidental information, though, all indirectly linking Durk to planning the scheme. This wasn't a serendipitous break for the authorities. Rather, it was a well-constructed case, with Jam supposedly serving as one of their key informants.
12 years.
12
got
years.
out, interviewed, said he kept it real, brought him cars, gave him 50,000.
Right.
This. Made mention that ain't no smut on his name. He ain't never been a rat. Caught a gun case, but eventually he...
Jam's purported betrayal had its origins in gang and personal dynamics. It began when Jam's baby mama allegedly sought legal assistance during her own problems. Rumor has it that Durk dismissed the request, and Jam didn't take it well. Shortly after, rumors began to circulate that Jam was wearing a wire, recording conversations, and providing the authorities with important information about Durk and OT. Yes, investigate OTF.
The OTF Jam.
I think we looked into him already.
He's the one that ate the cheese.
No way. No.
Even other musicians seemed to predict Durk's demise long before it happened, and they didn't waste time taking advantage of it. In fact, they even called out Durk's arrest about a year before it actually happened.
Just like the evidence they had on Shorty, and they had on Durk too, that you just paid to get your brother killed. How you not in jail?
The situation escalated when a 15-year-old boy was arrested in Iowa months later and linked directly to Redmond's murder. During his interrogation, he reportedly named key OTF members and revealed that Durk had planned the murder. In retaliation, Durk allegedly put a hit out on Jam's baby mama, Octavia Redmond, on July 19, 2024. Redmond was shot dead in broad daylight while delivering mail. The shooter, disguised and calculated, fled the scene in a stolen car that was later found burned to remove evidence. The murder was revenge for the alleged snitching, and it served as a brutal reminder of what happens when someone crosses Durk. Despite his rise to prominence in hip-hop, the streets he came from continued to pull him back, with the feds investigating his past. Back in 2011, Durk was making moves with the Black Disciples, one of the city's most notorious gangs. He had already felt the pressure of the streets growing up in Inglewood, a neighborhood notorious for its gang culture by the authorities. When Durk was in his late teens, the lines between survival loyalty and ambition became blurred as he became involved with the gang's activities. That year, he was arrested for gun possession, and police discovered a loaded firearm with a defaced serial number. This charge carried significant weight because it revealed to authorities Durk's deeper ties to the Black Disciples. A gun with a defaced serial number is street level 101 for keeping weapons untraceable, a tactic gangs use to avoid linking crimes back to Durk. Durk spent a brief period of time in jail for that charge, but the circumstances exposed the conflict in his life at the time. On the one hand, he was a young father attempting to find his way in life, and on the other, he was a product of his surroundings, caught in a cycle of street loyalty and gang codes. The 2011 arrest signaled the beginning of a lengthy legal battle that would follow Durk into his ascent to fame as a rapper. By the time he started to establish himself in the music industry, his lyrics were full of references to the gang lifestyle he was leading and the realities of street life coded messages. The rap world embraced his authenticity, and law enforcement kept tabs on his moves, seeing them as more than just artistry. However, that arrest made headlines because it was the moment when Durk's street persona began to merge with his burgeoning music career. His ties to the Black Disciples gave him street credibility and constant scrutiny, and that reputation still haunts him today, with investigators and prosecutors quick to bring up his past ties to paint him as more than just a rapper. Even as he rose to rap fame, the shadow of his 2011 arrest and gang affiliations never truly went away. Although the gun charge may seem like it happened in the past, it set the stage for everything that has happened since, including the fame and the trouble. In 2013, Lil Durk found himself in some serious hot water once more. By this time, Durk was already establishing himself in the Chicago rap scene at around 3 a.m. When police arrived on the scene, Durk was in the Englewood neighborhood, which had seen its share of street drama involving gang activities. Investigating a report of a man with a gun, they believed they had caught Durk red-handed. According to the story, as soon as the police arrived, Durk threw a loaded .4 caliber handgun into a nearby car in an attempt to play it cool. However, the move was not missed, and the police retrieved the weapon, which led to Durk being charged with unlawful use of a weapon by a felon. This was a serious offense, especially since Durk already had a criminal record from his 2011 arrest for gun possession, which involved a firearm with a defaced serial number. Although he was able to plead it down to a lesser offense, it still identified him as someone the system was watching. Durk's 2013 arrest brought to light the conflict in his life at the time. He was a rising rap artist closely linked to Chief Keef and the expanding drill scene, but he was also closely linked to Chicago's gang culture. What was even more significant, though, was how this arrest cemented Durk's street credibility with the police and reinforced the narrative that he wasn't just a rapper, but a product of Chicago gang culture, someone who wasn't above the violence and chaos that plagued the city. Durk ended up spending some time behind bars after this charge. It wasn't his first time behind bars, and it wouldn't be his last. But it was a wake-up call in many ways. The arrest stopped his career in its tracks and made him face the decisions he was making. His history of gang violence doesn't help his case and portrays him as a violent criminal who commits violent crimes again, even as he works to soften his public image. In August 2024, Lil Durk changed the perception of what people believed about him by appearing on Instagram looking more grounded than ever. In his Instagram story, Durk went further and said that he doesn't gangbang because he's a Muslim. He didn't want this to be a personal move, and he called on his followers to see this as his new chapter in life. He also expressed the desire to be seen differently, saying that he didn't want to be labeled as anything other than a man, a father, and someone who is fully committed to his Muslim faith. It wasn't just a casual statement. It came across as a shift in energy, a declaration that he was trying to distance himself from the gang life that had been following him for years. Durk emphasized that one cannot claim the It was a candid and introspective moment that demonstrated his growth and accountability. He explained that although his music would still reflect his life, it wasn't about glorifying gang ties or violence. Rather, his focus was on becoming a better man for himself, his family, and his fans. This shift wasn't an overnight realization. Durk had been openly Muslim since 2020, but the chaos and losses he had experienced in the last few years seemed to have struck him differently. Losing his brother DT Tang to gun violence and his close friend King Von to gun violence. Durk talked about his time in rehab earlier in 2024. He didn't give all the details, but it was obvious that he had struggled with substance abuse and decided to clean up both physically and mentally. He said that the experience had been transformative for him, helping him feel that going to rehab wasn't something to hide or feel ashamed of. Violence had a profound impact on him. He had been grieving their deaths and realizing how much that street energy continued to pull him into a cycle of pain. On top of that, his own health issues forced him to slow down and prioritize what really mattered. Was a crucial component of his path to peace. His primary focus now was on his family, staying out of trouble and spreading positivity. He was determined to end destructive cycles and stay on course for good. What makes this change more difficult is realizing how deeply ingrained Durk was in the street culture, which he is now separating from. It's difficult to leave a life that has shaped you, especially when your music and image are connected to it. By sharing his faith and his new direction, Durk is attempting to soften his image by serving as an example for a rapper who is so closely associated with the streets. The fallout for Lil Durk was swift and severe after his arrest in Florida just days after the village of Broadview honored him with an honorary key for his charitable work. The mayor didn't hold back, stating that the move wasn't just about legal guilt, but also about reflecting the values of their nonprofit neighborhood heroes. This kind of pivot isn't just brave, it's monumental. It's him declaring that he's done being a product of his environment and is ready to be a leader, not just for his fans, but also for anyone caught in the same cycles he's worked to escape. The acts in what seems to be a public breakup between the rapper and the village back on October 18th, Durk was praised for the work his Neighborhood Heroes Foundation had done to help local youth and underprivileged communities. The foundation had been a shining example of Durk giving back, showcasing a side of him that rarely made the news. From mentorship programs to scholarships, Durk's organization seemed like evidence that he was trying to balance the scales, giving hope to the same streets where he once rapped about surviving. However, the news broke and Durk's. The arrest in the Quando Rondo case completely changed the course of events overnight. Katrina Thompson, the mayor of Broadview, wasted no time in making a statement that dealt a severe blow to Durk's redemption arc. She claimed that the public opinion among the residents held even higher moral and ethical standards of behavior. In her written statement, she made it clear that Broadview's association with Durk no longer aligned with its values, and the honorary key was revoked, as well as the partnership with Neighborhood Heroes. This wasn't just about handling negative publicity, it was about protecting the village's reputation. In essence, the village couldn't let Durk's growing legal issues overshadow the positive strides it was trying to achieve for Durk. The timing couldn't have been worse. His work with Neighborhood Heroes had been one of the few ways he was actively distancing himself from the street life and the controversies that have followed him for years, from dating to local. The mayor presented her decision as a duty to the residents, explaining that protecting Broadview's interests and upholding the community's values was her top priority. This fallout raises more serious questions about whether someone like Durk can ever fully escape the shadow of their past. Can a man who has come up through the trenches, seen and done things most people can't even imagine, ever be fully accepted when they try to turn it all around? For both fans and critics, losing that partnership not only damages his public image, but also undermines the foundation of his efforts to bridge the gap between his past and the better future he's been trying to build. The foundation was Durk's way of rewriting his story to show that he could be a force for good. The fallout from Lil Durk's legal troubles escalated when Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson stepped in and revoked the rapper's honorary key to the city. This move came just days after Durk's arrest in Florida on murder charges for hire charges, and the public's condemnation didn't stop there. As of right now, Durk sits in Florida's Broward County Jail, facing some of the most serious charges of his life, even though he hasn't been found guilty of anything yet. Scathing's statement that not only denied Durk the symbolic honor, but also made it clear what the city stands for. Durk had been given the key as a token of appreciation for his charitable work and work with his nonprofit, the Neighborhood Heroes Foundation. It was intended to show how far he had come, from a kid living on the streets of Inglewood to one of Chicago's biggest stars giving back to the communities he grew up in. However, as soon as the accusations surfaced, the mayor and city officials found it impossible to maintain Durk as a public figure representing Chicago. Johnson made his position very clear when he said that although everyone has the right to the presumption of innocence in a court of law, the city of Chicago holds its representatives to the highest standards. He explained that the accusations made against Durk, whose real name is Mr. Banks, do not reflect the values the city upholds, so the city decided to revoke the honorary key that had previously been given to him. The mayor stressed the significance of upholding the community's trust and respect by refusing to engage in behavior that damages it. The decision to resign the honor was not made lightly, but it was deemed necessary to protect the city's image and principles. The timing couldn't have been worse for Durk, who just weeks ago was being honored for his contributions to Chicago through Neighborhood Heroes, a foundation that has funded scholarships, youth programs, and even grocery giveaways in underserved communities. Mayor Johnson further stated that the key to the city represents more than just a ceremonial gesture, but rather a symbol of leadership integrity and positive influence. For a brief while, it appeared that Durk had been successful in shifting the focus from his troubled past to his efforts to inspire change. However, after his arrest and the accusations that followed, including claims that he attempted to flee the country, the goodwill he had built quickly evaporated. Critics of the decision argued that the city was too quick to distance itself given that Durk has not been found guilty, while supporters of the mayor's move say it was a necessary step to uphold Chicago's reputation. Residents and social media users quickly responded, with many wondering why Durk had been given the key in the first place given his. Even though his music and charitable work have had a big impact, his lengthy history of legal troubles and alleged gang affiliations highlight how hard it is for public figures to avoid their past, especially when it keeps coming back to haunt them in real time. Durk's legal team is preparing for the battle of their lives as they prepare to fight mounting murder charges for H, which could destroy the rapper's career and personal freedom. They are facing accusations that link him to a violent revenge plot against Quando Rondo and his crew. However, as the evidence mounts, the case is getting harder to defend, and Durk might be facing a life behind bars. Prosecutors are portraying the OTF crew as a criminal enterprise rather than a music label, and they may even charge him with the Ratio case. Long before all of this happened, 50 Cent saw the writing on the wall and attempted to put Durk on the defensive about the potential dangers of those around him. In an interview on The Breakfast Club, 50 Cent recalled a conversation he had with Lil Durk while they were in New York, asking him if the crew was truly as genuine as they seemed. Instructed Durk to exercise caution and watch them closely, stating that he was worried about how quickly loyalty in the streets could change. Durk appeared to take the warning to heart, recalling an unpleasant incident in which someone had unexpectedly shown up at his house. Durk asked how someone had gotten his address, which was supposed to be private. This exchange suggested that Durk wasn't completely dismissive of 50's caution, as he was already starting to question the reliability of those in his circle. Fast forward to the present, and Durk's legal. Hip-hop commentator DJ Academic stirred the pot by sharing a photo of OTF member Jam allegedly in an interrogation room eating McDonald's, which sent social media into a frenzy of speculation about snitching with federal investigators. The rapper was arrested on charges of murder for hire and conspiracy connected to the 2022 shooting of Quando Rondo's cousin El Poo and what authorities claim was retaliation for the death of King Val. 5 other OTF members were also detained along with Durk. Prosecutors said that Durk's actions weren't just about business, claiming the hit was deeply personal. They have pointed to King Von's death in 2020 as the catalyst, claiming that Durk was out for blood after losing his close friend in a violent altercation connected to Rondo's camp. The federal case against him goes beyond accusations of financing the attack. Authorities are crafting a narrative that Durk is the mastermind of a violent network operating. The framing of Durk as a music collector makes the legal battle even more difficult to fight. Durk's lawyers are making every effort to distance the man from the image, arguing that his music and his hardened persona don't define who he truly is. The defense is preparing to vigorously contest the evidence, raising doubts about how things like money transfers or ambiguous text messages can truly demonstrate his intention to commit murder.
Lil Durk appeared in court where a judge ruled there was enough evidence for him to go to trial.
They also point out that Durk's fame makes him an easy target, especially given the scrutiny he has faced due to his contentious past. However, despite all of that work, things are not looking good as prosecutors are focusing heavily on what they claim to be digital evidence of messages between Durk and his OTF crew about flight money and planning. If that evidence is proven to be accurate, it could be a significant setback, making it more difficult for his team to argue that he is being unfairly accused. And the conviction rate in federal cases like this is not to be taken lightly. This isn't just about whether Durk ends up in jail, it's about his entire legacy. He has worked for the past few years to improve his reputation by removing his connections to the streets and doing good deeds through his Local Heroes Foundation. He has donated to youth programs supported by underserved communities and attempted to demonstrate that he could be a good role model. However, his charges are now overshadowing all of that. The fallout is severe even before a trial begins. His nonprofit partnerships have been terminated, awards have been retracted, and public support is. As the charges become more serious, even Durk's most devoted supporters are beginning to doubt whether the man behind the mic is really divorced from the life he has worked so hard to leave behind. This is a bitter pill for his fans, who have supported him through past legal issues, believing in his transformation and his message of perseverance. In the courtroom, his legal team will face a difficult task as they must not only expose flaws in the prosecution's evidence, but also fight the public narrative that portrays. For a rapper who has made his name on surviving against the odds, this may be his hardest battle to date. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, click on one of the videos on your screen to dive into more content from our channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more. Durk is a puppet master pulling strings behind the scenes as the trial looms. The pressure is mounting. Durk's freedom, his career, and his legacy hang in the balance.